Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Freeing Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dukeman, and today I have with me Michael Richards. How you doing, Mike?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. So, Mike, why don't you spend a few minutes telling us about yourself, what you do, and we'll get
Okay.
going from there.
So I live in Las Vegas. I'm 40 years old. I have twin boys. Recently divorced in 2020. I was married for 15 years. We were together for 18. As far as work, right now I'm an electrician. I work for a company that does streetlights and traffic signals out here. Um, and I've been working for them for about 11 years. And that is a business that once you get in, you'll never be slow. So it's cold in the winter and miserable in the summer, but it's good work. Um, yeah, that's that's it.
All right. So we met a couple months ago at an event, and one of the things we talked about a little bit was mental health. Um, you've started some things in your life, dealt with some mental health, started a group, and what can you speak onto that as far as that journey of mental health goes?
Mental health. I'll tell you what, like I never really addressed mental health until my divorce. Um, I'd I had had a lot of traumatic things happen prior to then. Um, that I never dealt with.
Mm.
I had I've lost several friends from suicide. Um, my close friends, my best friend killed himself in 2009. Um, the way I dealt with that is I kind of locked myself in my house for about 6 months. I just went to work and went home. I never went out. I didn't talk to anybody. Um, and that wasn't really the best way to deal with any of that.
Mm.
When my divorce happened, that's when I really started to look at myself and was like, okay, I I contributed to this the demise of my marriage, what did I do? What is it like what's my problem? Why did I do the things that I did? And I really wanted to find that out. And that's where the accountability thing came into place too, is like I started taking accountability for my actions. So um I found a therapist, and I started going to them, and I would go once a week, every week for 2 years. I still go to therapy. I don't go as often. I go like once a quarter now,
Mm.
just to check in. Things are pretty good for the most part, but that helped me a lot. Um, Going to therapy, going to counseling, that's something that I think everybody should do. It's so important, and so many people don't do it. I've had so many people, because I'm open about it. I'll tell anybody anything they want to know, any questions. Um, and there's so many people that be like, man, I want to do that. I want to talk to a therapist. And I go, you should, and I'll even give them the place. I'll go to this place, call them. And they never do. For the most part, they never do. I've had a couple of people actually go and do it, and they never do it right away either. It's like I'll hear about it, a month later, and they're like, "Hey, I finally set an appointment." That makes me so happy when I hear that,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's so helpful. What it what it did for me is it started to put all of my thoughts and the things that I do in the forefront of my mind.
Mm.
And so I was way more like, when I was going to do something that I would have just done, the old me would have just done and not thought twice about it. It really started to, make me question, do I want to do that? What's the result going to be if I do that? Um, so that's why it was so important to me to keep going, um, because it just kept that stuff at bay. And I'll tell you, like, there were tons of times where uh, I didn't want to go, and
Mm,
and COVID hit during that time too. So I would always go in person, but then COVID happened, then we couldn't go in person. So then I would use this app called Telehealth, and it's just like this,
mm,
like a FaceTime call. And so it was really easy to like get out of it if you didn't feel like going. And I did that a couple of times, but I never did it. Like, there was like a 24-hour cancellation policy. So it's like, if you
mm.
didn't cancel within 24 hours, it was still, they still charged you. And so I never did that. And then they charged me. And so, it would be coming up to the next meeting and I'd be like, ah, man, I don't want to freaking go. But I was tired of getting charged.
Yeah.
So I was like, screw it. I'll just do it. So I would drive to a park that's right down the street from me, and I would just sit in my car and do it on the phone with them. And I'll tell you, like, the days that I didn't want to go, those were some of the best conversations. Like, I would be, telling myself, like, man, I'm good. Like, everything's good right now. I don't freaking feel like talking about anything. I've talked about everything to death. Um, and yeah, those are the days that I've had the best conversations, I would
Yep.
say. And so, for people out there, um, that are thinking about, going to see a therapist or counselor or whatever, um, those times are going to come, and I would encourage you to just keep going. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. And I found the same thing. The days I didn't want to go were the days that I usually got the most out of. The
yeah,
best conversations, the best breakthroughs.
right.
Actually felt like I'd gained some traction those days instead of just going through the motions. Um, and I think too, like you said, like you'll talk to people and they'll kind of tell you that they want to do it and then maybe don't. I think we have such a
Mhm.
stigma still, and I think we've gotten through a lot of that stigma in this society about therapy and mental health. But really, it's still there. But there shouldn't
Yeah,
be any stigma associated with it. It's a very normal thing. It's a very natural process of just communication and working through your issues. And really, I think societally, we would be in a much better space if we were more willing to actually go do those things and to work on ourselves. Because in the end, we should want to be the best version of ourselves we can be. And if
right.
we know we're in a dark space, we need to work on that, get out of that space. And having a willingness to do so matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think everybody should go. Um, People aren't going to go when things are good.
Mm,
That's just it. Like, people don't need help when things are good. It's when things are bad. And so, like, I've had so many people that, because I'm super open about going to it. So I don't, like,
mm,
I'm not shameful about it, because I want to encourage other people to go. And so many people being like, wow, that's really cool that you do that. Like, I really want to do that. Um, but nothing's bad enough, I guess, in their lives to where they're like, okay, I need this.
mm,
And so, you know, I've had like I've had several friends that, a while ago they were good, but then they came into a bad moment and they've reached out. And so, that's when I encourage it.
mm.
I always encourage it, but like, especially in those moments. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's kind of the sad thing a little bit, is that people won't do it unless something's bad. It's
Mm,
like, wait until your check engine light is on.
yeah.
I go, like I said, I go every quarter now, and I just do that for maintenance. you
Yep.
know Usually things are pretty good. I'll have a hard time, and that's actually, after doing it for 2 years, that's how I knew that. I was like, you know what, I don't need to go as often, because when I was going, I wasn't talking about anything bad anymore. I was talking about all the great things that were
Mm,
happening. And I did that for a little while, and I was like, Yeah, like this is fun. I'm enjoying like just talking and hanging out, but this is also expensive.
Yep.
So
Yep. And sometimes though it is good to talk about those things because I know like I've gained some insight with my therapist when they're like, hey, because she usually starts out with like what's good. Because for a long
yeah,
time
right,
nothing was good. And so that was always the question, like what's good? And like, hey, I showed up, you know.
right.
And and now a lot of times when I do come in for that, just it's I usually go sometimes once a month, sometimes every couple months. It just kind of depends because I schedule it alongside with my ketamine treatments. But a
I
lot of
always
times
wanted to try that.
it's I really can't say good things about it.
Yeah,
That was the game changer for me.
really.
Um, as far as just how much it helped because I would always just kind of plateau and I could never really get over that that mountain of the struggle and the horrible dark stuff. And ketamine just was a complete reset. And
Mm.
and now it's just the I go in about every 3 months and we're just a little bit over what about a week past 3 months now. And they stretch them out a little bit each time. So the goal is to be every 6 months. And it's just a nice little just reset and kind of keeps things going. And it really puts you in a space where you're able to process a lot of things that you're normally not able to process just because of the barriers that we put up in our own head. Um, but yeah, as far as talking to the therapist and sharing the good things, I have found it fascinating recently that we've kind of shifted and they'll talk about like where I don't necessarily see it, but they will see that shift point where like, yeah, you were kind of moving along, but you were like right here. And then at this point, like all of a sudden you just took off and
Mm.
everything got better. And the things that you've done and the consistent actions that you now take and have put in place that, you know, while they're like, oh no, the ketamine's good, like that helped you, but really it's those consistent actions that we gain from the clarity of going to the therapist.
Right. How
Um,
long have you been doing therapy?
I think I'm going to say about 5 years probably.
Okay.
Um, and for a long time, it was every week, and then we were every 2 weeks. And it just kind of that is the nice thing too, is they kind of let you steer the ship. They're not going to tell
Right.
you, hey, I need to see you every week. Um, but it's just kind of what you think you need, right? And so I enjoyed that part of having the control with the scheduling. But yeah, it's just it went from a very awkward thing initially for me to being quite
Right.
a comfortable thing and actually enjoyable. Because
Right.
I
Yeah.
know I know that my head's going to be cleared afterwards. I'm going to talk about things and be able to process things with them, and they're going to say things that are going to help me.
Yeah. I had a friend who just started going, and he said the same thing. He was like super awkward the first one, and
Mm,
um, it wasn't quite like that for me. Like I'm generally pretty open, but I could understand it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to open yourself up and just say all the things, because we've been
mm,
conditioned to hide everything and just always be, like nothing's ever going on, and that's the problem.
yep.
What what made you want to start going to therapy?
So I had just kind of hit a really low spot, and I couldn't really figure out what it was, but it was all revolving around PTSD. Like I kind of recognized at one point, I was like, I'm pretty sure that this is what's going on. And so I started looking into it as far as what are some symptoms of it. And then once I was like, oh crap, this is what was going on, that actually made me worse because I'd always thought that
Oh,
I was like immune to that. It was always that it won't happen to me. And my ex-wife actually forced me to go.
oh
And
wow.
because and she didn't really force, but I mean she was very much like, hey, you have to do something. You're not okay. And we were still married at the time. But once I've made that appointment and started going and going through the process, by the time I was actually able to get in, like, because that's the thing, we put those things off because like you talked about earlier, like waiting until the check engine light was on. Like I'm pretty sure the motor was all but burned to the ground by the time I was making an appointment. I
Yeah.
mean, when I finally got up the nerve to make an appointment, I wanted to get in that day, which of course you can't really do that anywhere these
Yeah.
days. But
Right.
it was at that point where I was like, if I don't see somebody today,
Right.
it's too late.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, like there was just a lot of things that I didn't understand the way I understand now. But a lot of that came from going to those appointments and that consistency.
Right.
Um, and also like I think too with like the mental health thing and the stigma around it, we really don't we put a lot of that stigma on ourselves because like you talked about that we put on this persona, society's kind of taught us to say we're okay, right?
Right.
and and so much of that has led us to we stick that on ourselves because we look at somebody else and be like, well, they're okay, so I need to be okay. And in
Right.
reality, everybody has their own shitstorm going on to some degree within
Right.
their head. Everybody has that battle. um and it may be very different, but it's their battle and it's the hardest battle that they may ever have to face, but it's unique to them, just like mine is unique to me
Right.
and yours is unique to you.
The other thing is there's not like very many examples out there. So like, like I don't have any other I have a few now, but back then I don't have any friends that were going to counseling. Like
Mm,
like and that's why it's so important that if you are going to counseling, like, if you can be open about it and talk about it. So because I've had so many people be like, what's it like?
yeah.
Because nobody knows anybody is that or anybody that goes or at least admits to going,
Yeah.
so it's important to be that lighthouse, to, like I said, like I have a friend that just started going. Well, he I, I believe that I was that lighthouse for him.
Mm,
We were just talking one day and he's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend said that I should go to counseling, and I've thought about it. I was like, you should. I've done a ton of it, like we had never talked about it before, but I was like,
mm.
oh, this is the moment. I was like, you
Yeah.
gotta go. Where do you live? I know counselors all over. So um yeah, but that's the other thing, is like we don't know where to go,
Mm.
sometimes for anything, like if
Yep.
it's not an area in life that you're familiar with, then you don't even know where to start. And that's why
Mm.
it's so important for people to be open as they can about that stuff.
Absolutely. And I think so much of it too, like with that willing to be open about it. I mean, that's why I ended up ultimately starting to do what I do with just telling my story on social media, starting a podcast and talking about mental health and just sharing what I share, and even now helping people that are in that spot that they don't know where to go. And like, well, let's set up a plan for you and
Yeah.
get you your own personal roadmap to the recovery, to the wellness that you need and what that looks like. And I think that that's just the sharing of it is huge, like you talked about.
Totally.
um
And thank goodness for people like you that are doing that, you know,
Thanks.
because you're another lighthouse out there for somebody.
Yeah, and I know you're doing the same thing. Like I've seen posts that you've made about mental health, and I think it's huge because especially with men these days, like and kind of the war against the man in society, I think it's hugely important that everybody take care of their mental health, but especially men, because we are so conditioned to just bottle it up, don't talk about our feelings, keep that to ourselves, just put this stone wall on. When in
Yeah.
reality, we need to embrace the therapy and counseling and things like that, and even just fellowship with other men,
Right. I was
because
gonna
we
say that. Yeah.
we feel like we're alone, but we're not.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I
And
know that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that we always tend to lone wolf it. Like
Mhm.
it's almost like it's just automatic. we start going through stuff, we just close up and we try to deal with it ourselves. And that's exactly like the moment that you notice that you're doing that, that's exactly when you should do the opposite. Start talking about it. Get it out of there, because it's just pressure that's building up. And the only way to get that out is to talk about it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. Um, so I wanted to spend some time talking about the group that you've started, that
Okay.
you had just a few members in, and a couple months ago you just went for it.
Okay. Well, can I tell you the story of how it started
Yeah, absolutely.
with
Yeah.
the fly-in and
Mhm.
everything? Because
Yeah.
that all kind of ties into mental health as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
Um,
that.
so it's MOA, it's men of accountability. Um, what it is it originally was just a group text with some friends at work, and we were sharing like motivational stuff. The big thing we were doing was gym picks. Like, we all wanted to get in better shape, and so we would say, okay, send me a gym pick today. I want to know that you went to the gym. And we were doing that, and then it became, all right, now if you send a gym pic, you have to physically, like, visibly be sweating. Like, I want to see the sweat coming off your forehead or dripping off your face. That way I know you were working hard. Um, and during that time, I was like, man, I'd love to start a men's group. I would love to get more people involved. This is so much fun. Um, And so I had just been kicking around the idea of, different names. I have a whole list of names, and I landed on Men of Accountability for a couple reasons. One of them, the main reason, is accountability is one of the most important things. Um, that's that's what gets you started, moving in the direction that whatever it is you need to go in, is to take accountability and go, okay, I'm not where I want to be,
Mm,
you know. Um, and it's awesome to be able to hold another person accountable who wants to be held accountable.
mm,
It's cool to be able to do that for somebody. We all need this. Um, the other thing, which is a bonus, is that, like, when I was looking for names and all that, um, I would check, is the Instagram name available? Is the website available? Is the TikTok available? All that. And it happened, like, they were all available. So I was like, okay, this is it. We're going with this one. Um,
nice.
so anyways, so I set all that up, and I set up the Facebook group, and I invited the original four members from the group text into the Facebook group. And then I just sat on it for a while. I didn't do anything with it. We weren't posting in the group or anything like that. It just existed. And probably for about a month or so. So at the end of February, I went to the fly-in, the Sean Whalen Lions Not Sheep. He does something called a fly-in. It's you know what it is, but for people that don't, it's a 1 day kind of private group coaching with Sean Whalen. So he's somebody that honestly I look up to him a lot. I respect him a lot. Him and I feel like have very similar divorce stories,
Mm,
as far as, um, getting to a point where, I wanted to kill myself at one night.
mm,
Very, very similar stories. And so I always kind of uh, felt like a connection to him. And so, um, anyways, we go to this fly-in event, and it's so funny because as we're I originally went because I just wanted to hang out, because
mm,
I know some of those people, and it had been a while since I'd seen any of them, so I just wanted to hang out. I didn't even think about, like, why I was there.
mm.
Okay. Hang on one sec. So when it started, we're all sitting in the circle, and he goes, get up, introduce yourself, say what you do, and then say why you're here. And so it started on the other end, and then it was coming around to me. And as it gets closer to me, I'm like, shit, why am I here? Like, I better participate.
Mm.
And so I said, it's funny because the very first thing that I said, and then what happens at the end, I said, my name, this is what I do for work. Why am I here? Well, I just got my contractor's license. I'm thinking about doing this, but I'm not totally in love with this work. What I am in love with is like helping people. I love it. Like, I love coaching people. I would do it for free. I just love it so much. And so I said, I'm looking for clarity on which direction to go in my life. And so anyways, we go through the whole day, and it got to a point to where it just felt like he was just laying into me from like lunch to the rest of the day. That's what it felt like to me. Like, at some point, like, I don't even have good memories of what happened because I just went offline. I was
Mm.
like, this is too traumatic right now. Like, he's yelling at me in front of everybody. It's so embarrassing. I wanted to leave so bad. Like, he would be sitting there like yelling at me, and I'm like, I should just fucking get up and leave. Fuck this. And then the other side of me was like, no, don't do that. That's gonna make it worse. So I sat there and I took it. And it was so hard. Um, and I, like, what I can remember, you probably have better memory about it than I do, just, like I said, because I just fucking blacked out at one point. It seemed like, I remember he was like, you're a ship without a rudder. You're worthless. Like, you're a man without a purpose. Leandra's not gonna put up with that. She's not gonna stay with you, if you're like that. And man, I just could not. I was frozen. I could not even
Mm.
say a word. He would ask me questions. I could not say anything. So that was like, talking about PTSD. Now, I like, to me, I feel like that's a form of PTSD. I was super traumatized after that. Um, like, we went back to the hotel room, and for anybody listening that's never met Sean or anything, Sean is a great guy. Like, he does the thing he does things like that because he loves you. Like, he's
Yeah.
doing it out of love. And I know that, like, uh but it was hard. Like, but it, I'll get into that in a minute. But we went back to the hotel room, and I was just a fucking disaster. Like, for the whole rest of the night, like, my mind was all over the place. I could not get my shit together. And to the point where, like, I'm asking Leandra, I was like, do you even want to be with me? And she's like, yeah, of course I want to be with you. And I was like, don't fucking lie to me. I was like, tell me the truth. It was bad. Um, and so, like, I talked about it a little bit with her, and like I was saying earlier, like, I had all this pressure built up. So talking about it really helped me calm down. And then we went to bed, and about 2 a.m. The next morning, I woke up. All those same feelings were all back. Uh, maybe even worse than they were, and I could not go to sleep. And I just said, I said, we got to go. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home. And Leander's like, okay. Like, that's probably one of the best things about her. She's just always um so willing to do whatever, go with the
Mm.
flow. So she was okay, and she said, yeah, let's go. So drove back. I'm just a fucking, like, I'm mind fucked the entire drive home. uh and it was bad enough that, like, the experience is bad enough for me that, like, I scheduled like a little emergency session with my therapist. I needed to talk about it. And so, like, we went home and we did that. And that made me feel a little better. Um, and uh, so this all the story is to tell you how this group finally kicked off. Well, Monday morning after that weekend, I wake up at midnight. I usually wake up super early, like usually about 2:30 every
Mhm.
day. This day I woke up at midnight and I was not tired. I just got up and I was sitting on the couch and I'm looking at this group, this Men of Accountability group. It's got 4 members. Nothing's happened. I've had it for a month now, and I finally said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna invite every dude I know. Um, so sent the invites to everybody, and then the members just started pouring in. Um, People were accepting the invite. We were getting more and more members by the end of that week, or by Wednesday or Thursday, we had, I don't know, 90 something members. And it was the coolest feeling ever. And now we have, what is it? This was at the end of February. And so today we have like 345 members.
Nice.
So it's growing like crazy. But all of that happened because of that experience, that weekend. Um, and though it was like super traumatic, it's exactly what I needed to kick my ass into gear. And just say, fuck it, just do it, jump out of the plane. Um, at the time, I was like, fuck this motherfucker. Like, what a dick. But I'm not the kind of guy that stays like that. I get like that for a little bit. I'll be like, fuck this person. And but then I'll be thinking, well, maybe they were right, you know. Like I had a guy that worked for me a few years back. We were getting into it at work, and he's like, yeah, you know what? You're a shitty boss. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm a shitty boss. I know what a shitty boss is. I've had some. And I was like, I'm not a shitty boss. But I took that with me and I thought about it. And I was like, maybe I am a shitty boss, you know? So I'm that kind of person. Like, I don't, like, I hear, when people have, criticism and things like that, like I might reject it, at
Mm.
first, but it stays with me. I think about it and I analyze it. I've always been that kind of person. I'm analyzing everything all the time. Um, I've been called an overthinker, but
Yeah, I know that feeling.
yeah, I don't think I'm an overthinker because I'm just analyzing things. I'm just
Mm.
like, I see things from all the different angles and stuff like that. So, um, anyways, kind of getting off topic a little bit, but that's how the group got started, was just over that weekend. And I finally said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna go for it. And and it was funny too, because right after that, the fly-in weekend, a few people had texted me, um, and which I really appreciated. They were like, "Hey, man, are you all right?" And I was like, "Fuck that motherfucker! I'm never coming back." um, but about, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, and the group had started really taking off, and I told the owner, I was like, "We're going back." I was like, "We're going back for more." So
Yeah, and he will break you down, but it you might not see the build up that day, but it will build you back up. It might be a week later, 2 weeks later. It's pretty
yeah,
impressive.
yeah, I did not realize how bad that I needed that stern talking to, that tough love. The world needs more of that.
Yep.
We need to not be so sensitive about it either, because there I don't think there's a lot of people that may have had the same reaction I did, where I took it and it sucked and I was like, fuck that motherfucker. But afterwards I was like, you know what? I think he's right. You know, a lot of people that would have that experience and go, no, done. Like
Yep.
I'm
Checked
cutting that
out.
off. Yeah. And um that's you know, they need to do the opposite. They need to look into that sort of thing. We need more tough love, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great that you did pull the trigger on it, because I got that initial blast when you sent out to everybody that you knew,
Mm,
the request on it. And and then to have seen how much it's grown, and then to see the interaction in there as well has been great. And just even like this week, um well, by the time this comes out, you and I will be about a week in on 100 push-ups a day for 30 days.
right.
And so some people just within our circle started doing this, and then kind of just started challenging other people to do it. And so I got thrown in the mix, you got thrown in the mix, and
Mm,
last night you and I are both on day 3 right now. Um Last night you posted in the group about it, and I was like, well, sweet, I'm already in. So just like threw my video in there of doing the last of my 100 push-ups for the day. But
yeah.
to see other guys in the group jump in and just get right on board with that, I think is
It,
great, because we
it
need that little kick in the butt sometimes for
yes.
anything in life.
We got to be the example,
Yep.
because that's the thing is, there's so many people that are probably going, man, yeah, I'd love to do that. And then somebody they know is doing it.
Mm.
And then they're like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna fuck do it too.
Yep.
And so that's why it's like I've gotten way more active on social media than I ever have been. And
Mm.
it's because of that. It's because I want to set an example.
Yep.
Um, and I look to other people on social media for the same thing. Um, it's so cool in the group um that people are doing things like that people are posting things on their own, and they're having their own interactions. And at first every interaction I was like, oh, commenting every single one, all that. And it's just doing it on its own now. And
Mm.
it's so fucking cool to see some of the things that the guys are posting about, and um truly inspiring.
Yeah.
Another thing we started doing was weekly Zoom calls.
Mm.
So every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do a Zoom call, and everybody that can make it makes it, jumps on, and we talk about whatever. This week we're talking about being honest with yourself. So um, that's it's pretty exciting to see people get involved. I love it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing it. I think that the group that you started is much needed, and that's why it took off, and that's why it will continue to grow as well. And just even seeing the effect of it, where you know people are looking to you for certain things for help that you need, and then you're in a position with knowing people that you can direct them to the expert for whatever they're looking for help with.
right.
And that's huge, because it's that it's that whole thing like we talked about earlier. If you've never dealt with this, you probably don't have any idea what you're dealing with, whatever that subject matter is, what's
Right.
out there, how to deal with it. And so just being able to network and know those other people that can help. You don't have to be the expert of all things, but you're able to still help out all these men that need help.
Yeah. But and the biggest thing for me on this group is that, a lot of groups and things like that are centered around one person.
Mm.
I don't want that to be this group. I want this to be our group.
Mm.
Like we all have stuff we can share and contribute. Like I don't have all the answers. I never will have all the answers. So, it's not about me. It
Mm.
it's it's about everybody. And so that's what I love about it. Um, and that it's a big mastermind. It's a big resource, for men. And that's why, I encourage people to post, introduction videos and things like that, and talk about some things that they've gone through, and um, to where they can be of service to other men.
Yeah, and I definitely need to do that on there. I'm very much like, I try not to hang out on social media too much. I try to get my message out and then
Yeah.
go about my day. But just in the last week, I've really started looking in your group more and
Mm,
just kind of seeing what is going on. And I like it. I like that it's there. I like that there is just people sharing. That's huge because we all have a story. We all have
right,
something that we know about. We're our biggest critics, so a lot of times we don't think that anybody wants to hear what we have to say, but
right.
there's somebody that does. And whoever that person is, when they hear it, chances are you'll probably find out that at some
Yeah,
point they'll reach out to you, or even if you don't, if you feel like you need to share it, share it. And that's
dude.
that's what you've got going.
I refer to them as like you either they're in season or they're not in season. What I mean
Mhm.
by that is, like I've posted a lot of stuff, a lot of vulnerable things that I've had people a year later reach out to me and go, "Hey, I remember about a year ago you posted this thing, about this, and now I'm dealing with that. And so
Mhm.
could you help me?" So again, like super important, like put your story out there,
Yep.
say, because chances are there's going to be somebody that can relate. I was talking to another friend the other night, and they were telling me, I know some of their story, and they're struggling a little bit. And I said, what'll help you is to talk about your story. Like, go put it out there,
Mhm.
make a post, make a video, or whatever. And the most fulfilling thing is to be able to, the people that do reach out and can relate, the most fulfilling thing is to be able to help them.
Mhm.
And it helps you. It's like it's a
It's
win-win.
therapy.
It's the cycle. Yeah, exactly. It's like it makes you want to be better and more of an example. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I think it's awesome. And I love seeing it. I'm excited to see where the group goes. Um, one of these days I'll find a way to catch a Zoom meeting when I'm not at work.
Yeah. I'm not sure on the day yet. We've been doing Thursdays at 6. I really want to do it like on Sundays. Something I've always talked about is like I'm not like super religious, but I was like, if there was like
Mm.
a church you could go to and just listen to motivational speakers, I would I would totally go to that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, this could be like that. You go and get fired up for the week.
Yeah.
So that's why I would love to do it on Sundays. I just don't know if it's the best day. Um, you know, but
Yeah. I think you'll kind of find that sweet spot as you go along
yeah,
and see that. But yeah, I can see Sunday being a good thing too. I mean, I spend a lot of my Sunday preparing for the week, and
right.
anything that you have like that gets you ready to go for the week and gets you pumped for the week
Yeah.
is a good
I,
thing. I mean,
I'm that guy. It's like if I'm gonna start eating healthy, and it's Wednesday, I'll be like, okay, Monday, I don't know, like I can't
I,
start in the middle of the week. I
yeah,
gotta start, where it makes sense.
most of us are that way, and I strive to be the guy that just says like, oh, I need to do that, and just do it. Don't think about it. Don't put a date down the road.
Right,
Just start now.
right.
And I think I've been able to do that in some areas of my life, not as many as I want, but it's a process for sure because we can definitely talk ourselves out of things very easily.
So
Uh,
easily. That's talking about mental health. Oh my gosh. I constantly talking myself out of things. Another thing is like I get in funks all the time. I
mhm,
was just in a funk like a couple days ago, and oh my God, I hated it. I wanted out of it so bad, but I could not shake it.
mhm.
And I'm like, okay, what do I know that helps me, get out of a funk? Going to the gym, being more active, that helps. Talking helps. Being of service to somebody helps. And I was trying all these things, and it just was not working. And sometimes with those, I think you just need to let it play. Run its course.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes we got to sit in it for a minute and just kind of absorb it and take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, they're super annoying to me, but that's the thing is like you you know, you, I've done a ton of counseling, but that doesn't mean that like I'm all healed up. You
Mm,
know, you asked before we started this podcast, you talked about like, you know, uh, what I could speak about as far as mental health and how to overcome it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to overcome it because I still deal, I still deal with things.
mm,
Uh, so I don't know that there's ever really overcoming things. There's definitely like working through things. There's always something,
mm,
to work through. And that's probably the most important thing is realizing when things aren't good. And then noticing that as soon as possible. That way you can start putting in the work that you need to do to get back to a better place.
yeah.
Because I think, without without those resources and the knowledge of that you gain through therapy and things like that, you just go on this autopilot, and you don't even realize you're doing it, you know.
Yep.
So
And what you said right there with the things you learn, so much of it is the tools that you learn because there's so many ways to get the same result. You just need to find the one that works for you. And in
right,
that allows you to battle. That allows you to actually, when you get into the dark spot, to fight your way out of it and to succeed at that and to get back
yeah,
to a good place. And for me, I think over time, those battles aren't necessarily as severe.
right,
Sometimes we all get different things thrown at us that's like totally life changing. We haven't experienced anything to that level before, but those tools are what we can fall back on.
right. Yeah, I like I said, I make lists in my phone. Like when I recognize something that makes me feel really good, I put it in this list.
Nice.
And when I'm going in through a funk or something, I'll refer to this list and I'll go, okay, these are the things that make me feel good. What out of these things, do I feel like doing? Because sometimes I don't feel like I'll go mountain biking, but
Mm,
sometimes I don't feel like doing that, So I try to always remember, like in those moments, that man, I feel really good right now. What is it about
mm,
this that's helping me feel good?
mm.
And I'll write things on my mirror. Like I
Oh
always
yeah.
like I have an app that it's like $20 a year, but it puts like a positive quote like every day or a couple times a day. And it's stupid, but that stuff helps.
It
It's
does.
every little bit counts. I have this wristband for MOA. I don't know if it's in focus, but
Yeah.
um it says right here, you were meant for great things. And so like I wear this, and it's these little messages that help me, stay on track and keep trying to be better.
Yep. Absolutely. They're in it. The little messages, the affirmations, all those things, they really do work. I actually have, I don't know, it might be in the same app on my phone that does the same thing. And like I've actually talked with my oldest daughter about this quite a bit because she's kind of skeptical on it
Mm.
still because I
I
mean
used to be that
we're
way.
I was too. And to just be like, just give it a try and just because we are what we consume. If we're just going to consume negativity and
Yep.
tell ourselves negative things, that's where we're going to be. But if we can fill our lives with positive things and positive people and
Right.
positive tools to help us get through things, it's a much better path.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I could definitely relate. Like I said, like I don't really start looking at my mental health until my divorce.
Mm,
And before then I was like, uh, like, that's nonsense. It's a bunch of bullshit.
yeah.
um, and it's not, I
Yep.
I benefited a lot from it. And so,
Yeah.
but I had to go through, something super traumatic for me to finally go, okay, I've had enough of this, what I've been doing. I
Mm,
gotta, I gotta take some accountability here and look inside.
yeah. And I think my divorce definitely accelerated things for me too. And like I'm by no means advocating like just your life sucks, get a divorce.
Right.
Because I'm very pro marriage, and it's
Same.
I think that we have to do everything we can to have a strong relationship with our spouse and to build that and keep that strong. sometimes it just doesn't work out. But my strength and my acceleration came from the divorce because I knew I pretty much had two choices. I didn't really want to get a divorce. I just knew that's where we were at. And um, the alternative to just becoming the best version of myself was, well, I can just drink myself to death. I can just go party. I can go to the bars and just be a bar slut, do whatever. But I didn't want
Right.
that. And
Right.
so because I didn't want that, I just chose to run the other direction, which was to work on my body, work on my mental health more, to help people. Like I knew I wanted to do something that was going to not only benefit me, but was going to allow me to help people as well. And I think that's so huge because it's unfortunate that it takes those life-changing events, but I think that
Right.
from the same standpoint, those big life-changing events sometimes need to be the catalyst to get us going.
Totally. Yeah. It sucks that it has to be so catastrophic sometimes, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was exactly what I needed, you know. And same thing. Like I didn't want to get divorced, but uh, you know, I had done so much damage to my
Mm.
marriage that it was like, you know, there was no other choice for me. Um, and again, yeah, I advocate for marriage and fixing things and things like that. I don't think
Mm.
divorce is the answer. It was my answer, and um, but definitely, like definitely go to therapy. You know,
Yep.
especially if you're married. Like Leandra and I, we go. I said I go once a quarter. We go as a couple once a quarter,
Nice.
and generally nothing's ever bad.
Mm.
We just talk about our wins, um, and we just check in. It's just a place for us to check in, and our therapist will ask us certain questions and stuff, the stuff we don't think about that'll help
Mm.
spark some conversations. And so sometimes we get into things, but for the most part it's just good. But it's the maintenance thing. It's not wait until the
Yep.
check engine light comes on, you know. So like we invest so much money into so much bullshit, and then we don't invest any money in ourselves or very little money into ourselves,
Mm.
and that's where we'll get the biggest return on our
It
money.
is.
And we buy these cars and all this crap.
Yeah.
It's like therapy is really not that expensive compared to that shit.
Yeah, no, not at all. And like even Brittany and I, we had talked about we weren't even dating yet. We were just friends. And we were like,
Mm,
well, Scott and Ann Travis.
mm,
And we're like, yeah, they've got this relationship coaching group. We're like, it seems like it'd be legit. Like, I'm single. I'm not gonna join that group because it's about relationships, like
right.
people working on their relationships. And we had both talked about it, and we're like, yeah, like probably like not even thinking about each other necessarily because we were just friends, but like, yeah, it seems like getting a relationship would be a great idea. Well, as
Mm,
soon as we started dating, that's what we did. We joined their group, and that's been a big way for us to build and strengthen our relationship and
that's awesome.
invest in it, right? Like you talked. It's a huge, huge thing.
Yeah. Uh, that's cool. So they do calls, and they do like a weekly call.
Yeah, they do a weekly call, and so it's Resolutions Coaching Group,
Hmm.
and they do a weekly call, and then they usually do like some sort of call to action of like
Nice.
a conversation to have with your partner or something to work on and talk about, and very much about just the communication. It's so key in a relationship.
Yeah,
And I don't know about you, I think most men struggle to communicate with women.
totally.
It's always been hard for me. And sometimes
Totally.
you just got to send it. Like you can't think
There,
about it too much and just know that you might piss them off before you make it better, but
dude,
you got to
there's
get that
things that
stuff flowing.
I have a hard time saying in person. I'll tell you what, like saying I love you sometimes is really hard for me. And it's not
Mm,
because I don't or anything like that. It's just like I didn't say that a lot in my whole life. And
mm,
so it's just a weird, I don't know, sometimes it's really hard for me to say. Um, in showing love, like
mm,
that was a big problem in my previous marriage,
mm,
is like I didn't show enough love. And I didn't know how I needed to be loved. So, you know, sometimes, like, I even heard Sean say this on one of him and Sax's podcasts, you know, that sometimes he has to text things because it's just
Mhm.
easier to do that. And so
Yeah.
I could totally relate because, like I said, sometimes I have a hard time saying things out loud. So it's easier for me to text them. Um, but definitely communication. You know, Leanna and I, we've gone through a few things just, you know, from the time we started dating, because I wasn't finished going through my bullshit when we started
Hmm.
dating. So I've had a lot of stuff that I still had to work through. And you know, we figured out um, you know, to communicate with each other on things, and to know, like, um, you know, to not just assume things, you know, and and she's made it like a safe place for me to be able to say whatever I need to say, and it's okay, you know. Like, I could come home and I go, "Hey, I need a few minutes. Like, I love you, but like, um, I've got, you know, all this built up frustration or whatever. I need to go just chill for a while." And you know, it's okay to say that. Like, I don't feel she doesn't she doesn't feel rejected or anything, and doesn't make me feel bad for needing a little space.
Hmm.
Um, you know, we've even talked about, like, having like code words, you know, just so we don't have to say all that all the time. You know,
Hmm.
if we have a code word, then we automatically both know what that means. That, you know, whatever it is, that, you know, that word means that we need a little space or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, communication for sure.
Yeah. It's good stuff. And I think that, mental health ties to relationships because if you're not in a good way with yourself, it's hard to be in a good way with anybody else.
Oh, 100%, dude. You know, it's the whole oxygen mask thing in the airplane kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, you gotta take care of yourself first. You gotta be good before you can be good for your partner. You know, each partner has to be good individually, and then they
Hmm.
can be good together, and then you can be good for your children. But it's got to start with you. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of people put like their kids first, or their spouse first, or whatever, but that's the wrong way to go about it. You got to put yourself first.
Yep. And it's that's hard for a lot of people because they're like, that's so selfish. And you're like,
Right.
exactly. Be selfish. Like,
Yeah, you got to be selfish a little bit to be able to give, you
mm,
know, eventually. You got to put yourself in a good place, you know, to be able to serve others.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So what well, first off, how can people find you if they wanted to reach out to you or know more about your group?
Sure. You can look me up on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Um, uh, I don't know what my handle is. Michael B. Richards. Michael underscore B underscore Richards. You can find me there. You can, if you search Facebook groups, search for Men of Accountability. And that's a private group, so you have to request to join, and it's just for men. So, sorry, ladies. Uh, Leander has her own group called From the Ashes. So for the ladies, they can go find her group. But yeah, that's where you find me on social media.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes for anybody that wants to find you, reach out to you. And um just final thoughts from you. Um, if there was anything that you would say to someone who's struggling right now, what's the one thing you would say?
I would say, open up about it. Don't don't keep it to yourself. Talk to people. Talk to the right people too. I think we all have a pretty good intuition for who the right people to talk to is. You know, you could be dealing with something, and you talk to somebody and they go, "Oh, like, you think that's bad, you know, this is what I dealt with," you know, and then you're it's like you're one upping each other, but in reverse.
Yeah.
You need to find the person that's a supportive person, you know, that's gonna hear what you have to say, and then maybe even have some resources for you. Definitely talk about it. Don't hold it in. And don't uh, be open to, you know, find a therapist. It it's kind of hard. Like if you don't know where to go,
Yeah.
that's sometimes the hardest part. You know, I got on Google Maps and I just searched counseling, and I looked for a place that was by me, and that's where I started. You know, and not everybody, like I've had several therapists over the years. And I
Mm,
think it's important to change them up every now and then so you get different perspectives and things like
yeah.
that. So um and when you do start therapy, give it a good chance. It's going to feel awkward the first couple times. It takes a little bit to get your story out there and develop a relationship. So, you know, after that first one, don't think like, fuck this, I don't want to do this. Give it a couple times, and that way you can get familiar with each other and really start working on some things. So that's what I'd say.
Awesome. That sounds great. Um, well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. It was a great
Appreciate you
talk.
having me.
Yeah. We'll have to get together soon when we either next time you get out to Utah or I make it out towards Vegas and
Yeah, definitely.
go do something. But appreciate you coming on. And again, guys, I'll put all Mike's contact stuff for social media if you want to reach out to him in the show notes. And yeah, great conversation. Appreciate you coming on, guys. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Thanks for joining us, Freeing Your Mind podcast. Love y'all. God bless.